Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm thrilled to be joined by Sean Kauppinen, CEO and founder of International Digital Entertainment Agency. Sean, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing great. As you guys know, I'm Sheridan Ganger, your Director of Marketing here at HelpShift. And before I get started, I just want to say a big thank you to all of the participants that have been joining our Roadshow to GDC webinar series. As I just said, this is our 5th webinar in about 2 months. So we're gearing up for GDC. We're super excited about next week. But I want to say I started at HelpShift December 1st of last year. And I wasn't too familiar with the gaming industry. And over the past 2.5 months, I really want to thank our partners who really helped showcase the importance of monetization, user acquisition, the value of community, what goes into launching a game, App Store optimization. And now we're here today to talk about mobile acquisition and retention strategies that gaming companies aren't really thinking about yet. So I'm super thrilled that Sean could join us for our last webinar in this roadshow. But again, I want to say thank you to everybody who has participated in our webinar series in these past 2 months. And we look forward to continuing this series post GDC to cover a lot of other verticals as well. So stay tuned for more information on that. So before I continue, I just want to cover a couple of logistics that were in the email invitation. We are encouraging our participants to engage with us on this fireside chat and use the hashtag AskHelpShift or hashtag GDC15 so that we can incorporate you guys into the conversation as we go along. So we have our experts working in the background there. So definitely we encourage you to participate. Send us questions, send us comments. We are open to answer them. So, Sean, next week, the MORE Summit, the Mobile User Retention and Engagement Summit, March 4th at the St. Regis. Dean Takahashi moderating. What do you think?
I think it's going to be awesome. I want to lay the groundwork for some of the things that are going to be spoken about at the MORE Summit next week. I think that this is a great opportunity to really just start the conversation, and the MORE Summit is going to be a great opportunity to meet in person and have a deeper conversation and a lot more peer networking and sharing on what's going on in the different places that you can actually build an audience.
Absolutely. And everybody who is on this call will receive an invitation to the MORE Summit. So mark your calendars, March 4th, starting at 9:30 with breakfast, with the summit beginning at 10 at the St. Regis. So with that, let's dive into today's topic. We're continuing to talk about user acquisition, and it's not just about spending money on Facebook and Twitter and kind of all those avenues that people are thinking. It's a bigger picture. So, Sean, definitely enlighten our audience and what they should be thinking about user acquisition.
Yeah, I think in general, user acquisition, a lot of people look at it as either we get a feature in the App Store or we put out a press release, which really isn't that effective anymore. You can go through Twitchers or you can do videos. I think that's a good avenue to get things out and make it inexpensive. But at the same time, a lot of people aren't looking at the audience they already have. I think re-engagement is a big part of it. When you've already spent the money to acquire someone or you've done a cross promotion to bring someone into your game, that you can't just let them kind of die off. You have to figure out what you're going to do with that audience. And I think re-engagement is something that really isn't getting a good look yet.
Yep. And we'll be getting into kind of the hacks around the best ways to do that in a little bit. But if you have a sticky app or a sticky game, your product retention really becomes your biggest differentiator. So if people are continuously attracted to your game, you're obviously doing something right. But how should the companies really be thinking about this in terms of their product retention and their engagement with their players, their users?
Yeah, I think if you start out with the part about making sure that your game's always interesting and there's something new, there's a really good example. I think TinyCode does an amazing job with their Family Guy Quest for Stuff game.
Yes, and we had Matt Fairchild on the webinar last week.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. I am an avid player of the game, and I'll tell you that they have these events that come up. They just finished their Valentine's event yesterday at 3 Pacific time, and I find myself going through trying to complete all the quests before that time period. Right. And then they're doing great things with licensing of characters and using celebrities to bring in that affinity you have towards those specific brands with characters. Things like that, making sure that there's events that draw people in for a certain period of time. I think there's things you can do with badging to make sure people are seeing, oh wait, there's something new in this, or bookering your app icon, and then pushing through push notifications is a big part of it as well.
So that's one thing that we haven't really brought up in our webinar series, is kind of adding an expiration date to a certain level of a game. That definitely gets you to that point that you need to do something because you can't miss an opportunity to advance yourself in the game. So that's a great point.
I think to add to that a little bit, if you talk about items and the event being limited, the idea of limited edition is really, really important. People want to collect things. They still want to have that digital good. They want to be one of the people that have it.
That notoriety.
The notoriety, yeah. Exactly. I'm trying to get all the characters, so I have a complete set, and I want all the characters, even if they're lesser characters or the people I don't even really care about. I want to have the complete set.
Yes.
So they're playing into my collector mentality in the case of Family Guy. But I think that it's looking at what you have to offer and kind of translating it. I have a background in a lot of massively multiplayer online games, MMOs. And in MMOs, we would do a lot of things with limited items. So here's an item, there might only be 5,000 of them available, but you have to get that before it's gone. Putting that up against events and saying, okay, so you have to get it before it's gone. It's either 5,000 of this or 10,000 of these can be gotten in the whole world, but you have to do it by X time, and then you kind of retire it. Yeah. And this is something that Disney kind of coined back in the day, and they would take a movie out, they'd release it on videotape, or they'd release it on DVD for a period of time, yeah. and then put it back in the vault.
Yeah.
So if you had The Little Mermaid, and they put it back in the vault for 15 years, you can't buy it again. So people are really excited to go out and buy everything that Disney put out during that time period. So it's a good example of how we can look at what we're putting out digitally and kind of retiring things. Maybe you bring it back in a year, maybe you bring it back in 6 months, depending on how well it did.
Yeah. It creates that excitement within the industry, right? It creates a new buzz. It really can tie into those re-engagement campaigns that we will be getting into further. And we'll also be addressing, how the gaming industry can look to the movie industry for some great tips, tricks, and hacks, and how a movie release plays into a game release. So we'll get into that later. But let's say I find your game, right? I'm on the App Store, I'm searching for fun things, find it, I download it, I play it a couple times, I stop. Cold turkey, no feedback, nothing. How do you get me back to playing your game?
Well, the first thing that we need to do in that instance is we need to look at the analytics, find out why you dropped off where you did. Was it a time-based thing, or was it specifically a level that you got to, or was it a roadblock? A lot of times with games, you'll get into them a few minutes and you go, maybe the gameplay is not changing enough. Or maybe you're hitting a place where you go, oh, they want me to pay, and it's too soon. They haven't made that connection yet. They're not a retained player yet. They're somebody who's still exploring. So I think if you can get to the point where you identify why they're dropping out, then you can start to get to the point of, okay, we can fix that part. Because you really do need to be able to extend them into the game far enough that they want to come back and play it. So you're not gonna be able to re-engage anybody who's just come in for a few minutes or just come in for 30 seconds and bounced off your intro video. It's got to be somebody who's come back, and it's probably somebody who's done a day one return. So if you're lucky, you're hitting a 40-45% day one return rate. Those are the people you're going to be able to do something with in terms of data.
Great. And Sean is a very avid gamer. So I've seen his phone. He's got a lot of games. What are kind of the campaigns that you've seen work great for you? Let's say you're a busy guy, you're traveling, you're meeting with different people in the industry, and you're playing a lot of games. So what have some of the companies done to get you back playing their game?
Yeah, some of the big things are if you look at a game and you see that it's changed, changing the app icon is actually, it's incredibly effective. You look at, oh, wait, the icon's now telling me that there's some form of an event, or that they've actually changed it for winter or the Easter season or Halloween. And I go, I liked what they were doing before. I remember playing this. Maybe I'll go take a look again.
So changing it up.
Exactly. Just changing the app icon, and you go into the updates. That's the easiest way to do something to re-engage somebody. The second part is that if you have push notifications turned on, and if you look at the history of installs, it used to be more people would let you actually turn on the push notifications. It's getting less and less and less. But if you have a game that's been in for a while, you can actually do a push message to say, hey, come back and see what we've done. We've just added this or this. So that's the most effective way.
Awesome. Can you speak to a game that's done that pretty well?
There's a game called Happy Street that I was playing a bit, and then I said, well, I'm not going to play this. I'm going to go play these other things. And I knew I still had some unused currency in the game. And then they changed the icon, and something about it, I was like, oh, I remember that cute character. I want to go back and take a look again. And they changed the game. They expanded it. They added new areas to go to. It was more exciting when I went back. So I stayed with it longer. Great, great. So that's some good advice for the people on the webcast today. You don't have to think huge. Just even something as simple as changing the icon, or if and speaking of App Store optimization, like changing your description in App Store and adding screenshots. And Aaron Wozniacki, who was on our third webinar, really got into that. So if you guys want to check that out, it is on our YouTube channel, and he provided some really good tips and tricks on how to optimize the App Store for more downloads. So let's get into talking about device space versus device time, right? That's a big question and a kind of something that gaming companies, put a lot of time into thinking about. But what should developers really take into consideration when building a game in terms of that device time versus device space? Yeah, if you look at the space, everybody knows the caps. It's 50 megs you want to be under for Android devices and 100 megs you want to be under for Apple, so you can stay on the Wi-Fi. There are drop-offs once you get above that level, but if you look at tablets tend to have a pretty consistent install, even above that, because a tablet user is probably going to have a little bit more bandwidth on their cellular. They're going to be able to have higher speed access. They might even have a better data plan. So depending on how it is, they can set up a Wi-Fi hotspot and they can download their stuff wherever they are. So device space, that's one thing. When you start to get games that are taking up 600, 800, 1,000 megs, the first thing that I do when Apple sends an update to or there's an update for my phone is I say, okay, so 3 gigs is pictures and videos. The next biggest thing, and I go, it's Harry Potter, and it's 686 megs, and I haven't played Lego Harry Potter in a while, so I'm going to delete that. I know I can download it again later. So the bigger your game, the bigger a target it is to get knocked off a device, unless somebody's really, really actively playing it. Good piece of advice there. Yeah, you're not going to scroll down and go, what 30 meg games can I ditch off the device, unless they're just really annoying. Got it. So let's get into some of those popular games and think about how some of these larger gaming companies have, tried to reactivate reactivate old users and gain new users. I'm sure everybody spent some time watching the Super Bowl last month, and we were all kind of taken off by the revamping of the gaming commercials, specifically Kate Upton in Game of War and Liam Neeson in Clash of Clans. What does that show? How should we be thinking about that? Are they helping with the reactivation campaigns, or is it something different? So I would look at it from two perspectives. One, Supercell's gone out and probably acquired the majority of the people they can get through mobile channels to begin with. And the same thing with Game of War. And what happens in acquisition over time is the cost of acquisition goes up. Yep. And this is actually something that's happened in online games forever. It's happening in mobile games forever. That the more times people see your ads that they're not going to actually click through, then you're going to be spending more and more money. And then the quality of the users tends to be kind of the same over a curve. So I think the TV campaigns are doing two things. One, they're bringing in a new audience that's not actively on their phone looking for that new strategy game each week. And they go, wow, okay, this is something I haven't seen before. The graphics are great. Television's a great way to reach that broad-based consumer. The key is to make sure that the game fits with it. So I think both the games that were advertised, there are actually 3 games that were advertised. They're all strategy. I just brought 2. Yeah, they're all strategy games, all turn-based strategy where you can do PvP. And the key to that is looking and going, okay, what kind of user is going to do that? It's somebody who's going to casually want to be competitive with their friends while you're watching the Super Bowl. It's the most competitive thing that we have in the US. It's football. Yeah. So the people who are watching it probably have the adrenaline levels and the interest in that kind of combat. Yes. So that was great. I think on the other side, it works a little bit as a reactivation campaign because your eyes are on the Super Bowl and wait a second, I remember that game. I have that. It's installed. You have your phone? Yeah. And oh wait, it's under 100 megs. So I didn't delete it the last time I did an update.
Good, good. And you just kind of touch on a little bit, and I'm hoping you can expand on it, the markets, right? How should the different markets be thinking about this? You know, not just markets, but size of gaming companies, indies, larger companies.
Yeah, so I think the larger companies are definitely going to do a better job with TV because most people don't have the money to do TV, especially not at Super Bowl.
Yes, yes.
But there's other things that you can do if you know that your audience is engaged in a certain place. If you look at YouTube, there's data out there that says more than 3/4 of the people who are actually playing games get most of their game information and news from YouTube. So if they want to actually go find out what's new, they'll go watch a Let's Play video, or they'll watch a Twitch stream of somebody going and playing a game. More so on the YouTube side for mobile games, but it's a great way to show stuff off. So I think that to actually go out and build videos that show why your game's good is absolutely a good use of time and effort. And for re-engagement, people are searching on certain channels. So that's all in the SEO that you put into the video to make sure that, hey, it's going to reach the target audience. It's just how you acquire them. They're looking for the same things. They're going to be in that space looking for the same things.
Absolutely, and that's been brought up a couple of times in our previous webinars when you're talking about user acquisitions, and everybody's been across the board ad videos. 30-second, 1-minute videos, short and sweet, educational, engaging, and you will see that those MAUs grow. Even shorter.
I'd say 15, 30.
Okay.
Because the attention span of people over time has gotten shorter and shorter. We used to do videos that were, okay, where's your 90-second video? And where's your minute video? And then it went to like, oh, you know, a minute is a minute's a long amount of time. Yeah, the light bulb didn't go on, it went off. But yeah, it's a shorter attention span. You have to hit them faster and faster.
Okay, great points there. So we've kind of talked a little bit about how the entertainment industry is kind of painting the picture when it comes to kind of advertising and gaining interest. But what can that entertainment industry really teach us about mobile game marketing?
Yeah. If you look at there's some differences with the different industries. For one, if you look in the newspaper, see what new movies are coming out each week, because there's ads in the newspaper. But you'll never see what new games are coming out this week because there aren't ads for games in the newspaper. So they've got some good traditional acquisition channels in place, and they've been there for many years. So we can't learn much from Hollywood in that particular part, but what we can learn from Hollywood is how they actually go out and they negotiate the releases. If you're the VP over at Fox, I'm the VP over at MGM, I might give you a phone call and say, hey, I've got my new movie coming out on the 29th of May, and I know that you guys have something coming in the same period, and maybe they're both pirate movies, and I might clear out a couple weeks of space and say, I will give you 3 weeks in November where I won't launch the similar space movie that I have versus yours. And it's really just to negotiate where you can best launch without as much noise. And this is something that a lot of game developers are already starting to think about, where they say, okay, well, I've got this game coming out, and they're mobilizing their cross-promotional partners to say, can everybody give me a push around this time? And then I can give you a push around when your game's going to be launching. So there's little groups starting to start out like that, where they really do try and raise that boat up and get that more organic thing. And I think the indies really need to look at this for, you're not competing against each other. You need to actually cooperate to figure out how you can build a better base for everyone to have these users to share.
I mean, it's such a large ecosystem, right? I mean, this is an industry that, it's competitive, but there's a lot of knowledge sharing. So thanks for that. I want to shift gears, and I do apologize for the lights going out, but it looks like the sun is shining upon us, and the lighting looks pretty good. So we won't interrupt and get up and try to turn on the lights. I want to shift gears and talk about VIP concierge services, because this isn't something that we're hearing a lot about. Like, I've been reading a lot from GDC and everything that's coming out next week, and I'm not really hearing anything about this. So we work with a lot of companies that say, I want to do one thing. I want to be able to deflect more tickets. And there's some markets, Japan, Korea, that are really getting this right, and they demand that high touch for those high paying spenders. So what's the threshold here? How should companies be thinking about this?
Yeah, so I think when you look at it, and China's another place that they do very good concierge services, everyone needs to kind of start taking a look at how the MMO industry has gone over the last several years. In the Asian MMO industry, they actually will have, as you're playing and you're a paying user, and they say, you're actually playing this game a lot and you're spending money. How about if we get you in touch with somebody who can help if there's an issue? And what'll happen is if you stop playing, you might get a phone call, you might get an email, you'll get some sort of a message from your concierge. And the concierge says, oh, it looks like you're having a problem at level 20. I put a sword on your account that'll help you get past that beast. You know, hopefully I can help you with that. Or maybe I'll go play in game with you to help you get past it. So there's all sorts of things that they can do, or companies can do to help a player along. But you really do need to be able to read your data and find out where the issues are occurring. Because if that particular player is having a problem there, and they might be one of your better spenders, you know that more people are going to have problems there. So that's about relaying it back to the game design, fixing that so that it's a good experience for everybody.
Got it.
But in terms of the threshold, I think the point where you actually do VIP service for a customer or a player is when it's justified based on the cost. So the cost of a customer support person might be $12 or $15 an hour, might be $20 an hour. But if you can get a player happy and they're willing to spend, because of 1 hour of contact they had in a month, they're willing to spend $10 or $15, you made, a pretty good investment there because they're retained, and then they're probably going to retain past that point where they talk to someone.
Absolutely. We actually covered that a little bit last week with Matt Fairchild, the director of community at TinyCo, and he was saying basically that what people think of a customer support or a community department as a cost center really is actually a revenue center, because you're in charge of making these players happy so that they continue to spend more money. So definitely, thinking about this concierge program, depending on how you are scaling, is definitely something that you should add to that checklist.
Yeah. And I think that for years, people have looked at customer service as, okay, these are the people who take the phone call when people are upset.
Yep.
And then you have community service, which is people who go out to websites and work in forums and social media. Well, the line between the two is completely blurred at this point.
Yep.
They are people who are representing the company and trying to create the best user experience. So I think that if we recoin that group of people as user experience specialists,
I like that.
Or, it's probably more accurate to what they're doing these days. They're actually building, growing community, and supporting the individual players to make sure that they're having a great time and they're telling everybody else that they're having a great time.
I was going to say, a positive experience gets told. I see it all over social media. If one of my friends has a positive experience in a game or with just some, a different sort of app, they talk about it and it makes the interest grow.
And a negative one gets tweeted out to thousands of people. I had a bad experience with Southwest Airlines about a month ago. And I sent that to everybody.
Yeah, but you can also take that negative feedback and make it good, right?
Yeah. I think the best way to do that would be for the company to directly approach the person and say, we're sorry, we actually hear your feedback on that. We're going to take it into consideration. Whether or not they really do something or not, it's at least nice to be acknowledged.
Yeah. So it's about listening to the good, it's about addressing the bad, making progress, but also it's really about meeting that player at their point of need. Can you talk a little bit about that and the value of that?
Yeah, so one of the things that games who have good customer support and good user experience, one of the things that they do that others don't is they actually have them very easily. I've had issues in many different games, and sometimes you'll go, how am I supposed to contact these people? Yeah. And the first thing the average user does is they go to the App Store. They go, contact, and they want to contact Apple. No. That's not the way to get anything done.
Yeah.
But if you have a channel where I can say, I'm having a problem with this right here, and I've got a contact us button within whatever software they might have embedded, that allows me to get in direct contact with them very quickly. And they can know that, wow, this is somebody who's playing our game a lot. We see how much they play, and we know that he's actually a paying user, or maybe he's a new user that we just brought in. We want to make sure that nurture him, give him a good experience. Just to verify that for the beginning, because we know we have a good game. I think that's the place where hitting them at the point of need is so much more important than letting somebody go, I have a problem, send an email through some web form, and then wait and get it back 5 days later. I'm like,
that's a reactive approach, right? We need to be proactive to scale your game.
Absolutely. And I think that there are some ways out there using push messaging and other tools to say, hey, guess what? We know this is an issue in the game. Just wanted to make sure that you knew you need to update or You need to go and do this before this time because we want to be very clear with the information.
And that makes the player, who's a person, feel part of the culture at hand, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge value add when you think about user engagement is these are people that are paying you to be entertained and to play these games. They're not just another checkbox, right? So giving them that proactive feedback can not only increase their spend, but it will increase their loyalty to the game. And that's what we really are trying to address here.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would like to apologize up front to anybody who's had to take the other side of my messages back and forth, because I unfortunately know how that system works.
Yes, we understand.
And say, hey, guess what? I know that you don't need to say the thing off the script. Yeah. I'm giving you specific feedback. And a lot of times I'll get the, thank you for the feedback. We're actually going to bring this to the development team and give them this feedback so that they know this is a real player experience.
Plays in the roadmap, absolutely.
And great. So next time it's going to be a smoother experience. I'm going to give them another chance. I feel that I'm being heard, and that makes me want to stick around.
Awesome. And that leads us into kind of the next phase of this talk is loyalty programs. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are starting to think about them. We're seeing this rise of community rather than just customer support, but really helping turn your players into advocates for your game, feeling part of that culture. So where should we be thinking when it comes to launching a loyalty program?
I think if you look at people who are going in and whether they're spending money in a game or they're playing and you know, the part that I want first, I call it ARM. I want to acquire, retain, and then monetize.
I've used that before.
Very good, very good. I don't want to actually try and monetize them before they've been retained because you can't do it that way. You can't say, oh, great, we got them, throw something in front of them. No. You need to make sure that they're having a good quality experience up front. And if they're having that good quality experience, then you can move to the next section of it. So looking at a loyalty program is how do I get this person who's coming in day one to come in on day 7? Well, there's a great MMO, I forget the name of it, but they actually had in-game, they had a countdown timer of this is how much time you have to play until we give you a little gift in the game. It's like, oh, wait a second. If I play for another 30 minutes, I'll be able to get that game. Actually, I think it might have been Fiesta Online. So 30 minutes, okay, heck, I'm already 15 minutes into it, I'll wait the other 15. And then as soon as I got that little gift in game, they said, oh, the next one's in an hour. Oh, man, I gotta play for another hour. But it didn't have to be a consecutive hour. I could leave the game and then could come back and go, okay, now I've got 20 minutes. I had even been carroted. I know something's gonna be here. And I like the last drop that I got because it helped me get to the level. So these types of things, I mean, that's an in-game retention program. I would consider to be loyalty because you're staying loyal to the game and you're being in there a certain amount of time. Some people do this like, hey, come back tomorrow and we'll give you the bigger gift and the bigger gift and the bigger gift. But looking at it from that perspective, you've got to get them to come back an entire day later versus how do I get them engaging 4 or 5 times the first day so I can get them to come back 2 or 3 times the second day so I can get them to come back 1 or 2 times after 7 days.
It's a process.
It is a process, but I see a lot of people do it where they'll just stick up, here's the list, come back tomorrow, and here's a grayed out thing. Like, well, no. A day doesn't work. 24 hours is too long to wait to get me to come back if you really want to engage me and retain me. You want me back within 4 to 6 hours. And I want to be back within 4 to 6 hours because that's when the excitement can continue.
Awesome. That right there was some great knowledge. And as I had been very forthcoming with the audience, I'm still getting to know the gaming industry. I have a lot of background in SaaS, but gaming is one of the newer verticals that I'm working on. And as I said, I've learned a lot of these past couple of months of these roadshows. And one thing that I've started to see come up and read about is audience sharing. Mm-hmm. This is kind of a new concept. Let's talk about it.
Very new concept. I look at audience sharing as the idea of I have a certain amount of time that my player wants to be within a game. If I see that I really don't have enough content to support them for 30 days, maybe I've got 20 days worth of content and I'm proving out my model to make sure that it's worth investing to build the next 80 hours worth of content. So I'm getting in here and I'm thinking, okay, the majority of my players are going to leave at X amount of time within the game. Well, if I have a partner who has a game as well, I can say, this is my break point. This is where not the lifetime value, but the lifetime time of the player starts to break off. I can start showing them cross-promotional ads to push them somewhere else that a partner would be. And I know that that's the point where they're going to be the most willing to actually leave because I know I'm out of content.
Yeah.
So if you push them there, you also have the ability to bring them back later, because if your partner's also managing their analytics properly and saying, wow, we have a big drop off after this amount of time, now we can take this audience and we can shift them back to one of our partners here or there or there. So along with the groups that are helping push the games up together, this is a great way to go, hey, we've got a bunch of D17s coming up and our D17 has dropped 30%. Let's go ahead and start throwing the cross-promotional ads on D16 out to push our people to the other game. And that way you've turned it into
awesome.
an asset.
I like this, and I'm excited to see kind of where this concept goes. And you just kind of dove into my next question is, what do you need to do to determine a player's lifespan for a game?
You have to look at where people are breaking. Is it a number of hours that they're breaking? Is it a certain level? Is there a certain experience within the game that they stop at? All games have these things, and if you read it, you will see there's probably divots like this at certain points. From a game design perspective, it's our job to actually make sure that the divots actually kind of smooth out. You'd like to see a small declining curve like that. You don't want to see it taking the stairs down. The stairs are bad. But at a point where you do have stairs, since you haven't been able to fix it yet, and it's going to take you at least 2 to 3 weeks to turn something around with testing and putting through approval cycles, every one of those stair steps should be a place where you're like, crank up the ads, crank up the cross promotion here, because we're losing our audience that we're paying for. Or you tune down the acquisition part of it and say, okay, we don't want people to send us cross promotional users right now. We're not buying ads. Let's smooth this out and fix it, and then reinvest the time and effort into keeping the players, because we've got a better game.
Awesome. Great insight there. And I want to be cognizant of the time. We are running a little bit over because we've gotten into some great conversation, and I hope that the audience has found all this valuable. But I do want to cover cross-publisher scheduling. And just I want to address that, we are on the heels of GDC, and this is something that is kind of taking the gaming industry by storm, and a lot of people can't wrap their heads around it just yet. So can I get some insight?
We talked a little bit about it, how the movie studios get together. I think it's literally getting there and having your calendar and opening it up with a few other promotional partners and say, I've got June 26th. What do you guys have? When's going to be the best launch for you? When's going to be the best launch for me? So if we take more of a community approach to launching stuff versus my game will be number one and everyone else will die, if we take that better approach, there's a better opportunity for people to be successful. I really think it is just getting down and talking to peers, especially on the indie side where you don't have a big budget to spend on acquisition and not a lot of money to go out there and do big PR media, even video campaigns. But you can probably talk to 5 or 6 people at an IGDA meeting and go, hey, will you show my game to the people playing yours? The key to that is either to pick something that's thematic. Like if you have a zombie runner game and I have a zombie driving game, people are going to like zombies. That's a good cross-promotional partner. It's not good if I have a zombie running game and you have a zombie running game, because then you're going to pick my audience one for one. So a lot of it's about finding the right partner versus just spamming the waterfront.
There you go. So, do the due diligence and make sure that you find the right partner. Just don't go and grab the first person that you think could help.
Yeah. And a lot of times I've seen people go and they'll play a game and they go, I really like this game. And maybe it's doing well, maybe it's not doing well in the marketplace. And you say, I'll reach out to them. And a lot of times there's that feeling of mutual helplessness when you're launching a mobile game, like, well, we can't get a break here. But when people reach out to you, it's like, wow, let's figure out how to work together.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I do want to, as I said, be respectful of everybody's time, but any last thoughts before we launch into GDC next week? Are you excited? What are the things you're looking to learn? I know that we mentioned the More Summit that will be taking place on March 4th that you guys will all be getting an invite to. But anything else?
I'm mostly interested in how augmented reality is going to actually come in and do things. I still think it's a little bit far out. Constantly giving talks on where things are going to be 5-10 years from now. I think how mobile interacts with augmented reality and different wearables and how gaming is going to become even more of a lifestyle as it comes in all sorts of different forms and flavors. That's interesting to me. But I'm excited to do the Morph Summit next week. I'm going to be running around talking to everybody. So if there's anybody out there that has questions, I'm completely approachable. Come up and say hi.
He's very, very, very nice.
Always happy to talk about what people are working on and give advice.
Awesome. Well, again, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Sean for being here and helping us kind of wrap up this series, as we call the Roadshow to GDC. And thank you to all of our partners that have joined me on, these fireside chats, and to our audience. This is for you. We've crafted these webinars to educate you and kind of share thought leadership with you to help you gain insight into these different variables that come with the gaming industry. So again, thank you. This does wrap our roadshow, but I do look forward to seeing you all again online shortly to discuss a variety of different topics.
Yeah, we can also do a roadshow to Gamescom this summer. So.
There you go. I'm already seeing that in the works now. So again, everybody, thank you so much, and I look forward to shaking your hands and seeing you next week at our Morph Summit.
Thank you.
Bye.